Welcome to Legacy Coins USA, where every coin has a story and every detail matters. In today's episode, we'll journey through the evolution of Canada's 1-cent coins, uncovering how key years like 1991, 1993, and 1998 quietly marked major turning points in history, metal composition, and collector value. From royal inscriptions and iconic maple leaf designs to hidden differences that most people overlook, this video connects the past to the present in a way only true numismatics can. Stay with us until the very end, because the smallest change in a single year can completely change what a coin is worth today, and you won't want to miss that final insight. Let's get started. The 1991 Canadian 1 cent is part of Canada's long-running penny series that dates back to the 19th century and reflects the nation's cultural and monetary history. The coin was issued by the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa and features the right-facing portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse with the Latin inscription Elizabeth Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, a traditional legend on Commonwealth coinage that acknowledges the monarch's role as head of state while tying the coin to Canada's parliamentary heritage of the time. On the reverse is the quintessential Canadian symbol, two maple leaves on a twig flanking the denomination and date, a design by G. E. Kruger Gray that first appeared in 1937 and became iconic on pennies for decades. From a technical standpoint, the 1991 cent was a bronze coin with a composition of 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc, weighing about 2.5 g and measuring 19.1 min diameter with a plain edge. It belonged to the KM-181 catalog designation used by World Coin Catalogs to identify this exact issue. Notably, this period used a 12-sided planchet edge, though the coin presents as round, designed to help distinguish the penny by feel, especially for those with visual impairment, a practical feature introduced in the 1980s. The coin saw a very high mintage of about 831 million pieces, making it common in circulation during its era. Historically, the Canadian penny tells a broader story about Canada's economic evolution, from a useful unit of currency in the early 20th century to a largely symbolic denomination by the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Pennies were produced for over a century, reflecting changes in monarchs, metal compositions, and technological minting processes. Over time, inflation eroded the penny's purchasing power, and public use dwindled as many Canadians saved them in jars or avoided spending them at all. By the 2000s, the cost to produce a single cent often exceeded its face value, a key reason the federal government and the Royal Canadian Mint later decided to discontinue the coin. In fact, after years of study and debate, the Canadian government officially announced in 2012 that production of the penny would be phased out because of economic inefficiency, each coin costing more to make than it was worth, and because it was no longer useful in everyday transactions. The last penny was struck on May 4, 2012, and distribution ended in early 2013, though pennies remain legal tender for transactions in Canada and are simply rounded to the nearest 5 cents when paying cash. The 1991 cent sits near the end of the traditional penny's long narrative and before substantive changes in composition that began in the late 1990s and early 2000s. For collectors, common Canadian pennies like the 1991 issue hold more numismatic interest than monetary value. Because the 1991 cent was widely produced, typical circulated examples, those worn from everyday use, generally trade for only slightly above face value, often a few cents to about $0, $10, 25 CAD, depending on condition. Uncirculated specimens with full original luster, referred to as MS or mint state, can have higher collector value, with nicer examples sometimes reaching a few dollars in dealer or collector markets, e.g., MS63, MS65 grades. Certified high-grade coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC Command premiums and can be worth $10.50 CAD or more, depending on grade and eye appeal. Beyond standard strikes, Error varieties, coins struck off-center, double-die errors, clipped planchets, or other mint production anomalies, attract extra interest and can be worth significantly more, sometimes ranging from tens to hundreds of dollars, with the rarest and most dramatic errors fetching the highest premiums. Collectors also value proof versions issued in mint sets. These special strikes often have a mirror-like finish and are preserved directly from the mint's presses rather than spent in circulation. Overall, the 1991 Canadian penny is a tangible piece of Canada's monetary heritage and an accessible starting point for collectors interested in the story of the Canadian cent. While it may not be rare in everyday circulation, its place in the final decades before the penny's discontinuation and its classic design make it a meaningful addition to collections focused on Commonwealth coinage, Canadian history, or Queen Elizabeth II's long-reigning era on coins. Keep a close eye on your change because that hidden treasure might be sitting right in your pocket. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a big find. Stay tuned because in the next video, we're diving into another legendary coin that could be worth a small fortune. Next up, the 1993 Canadian 1 cent was part of Canada's long-standing penny series, continuing a design tradition that had been in place for decades. On the obverse front, it shows a right-facing portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with the Latin legend Elizabeth Iidg Regina, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This inscription and portrait style were used on Canadian coins throughout her long reign and reflect Canada's constitutional monarchy and Commonwealth ties. On the reverse, the coin features the classic motif of two maple leaves on a twig, designed by G.E. Kruger Gray, a design that had been in continuous use for pennies since 1937 and symbolizes Canadian identity and heritage. From a physical and technical standpoint, the 1993 cent was struck in bronze, composed primarily of copper with small amounts of tin and zinc, weighing approximately 2.5 grams and measuring 19.1 mm in diameter with a plain, smooth edge. This was a continuation of the traditional penny composition before later years moved toward plated steel due to rising metal costs, but 1993 remained solid bronze. The coin is catalogued under KM-181 in Standard World Coin References, meaning it's recognized and classified consistently by numismatists. The mintage for 1993 was large, with over 752 million to 808 million pieces produced according to different numismatic sources. Such high production makes this year one of the more common pennies in the broader series, especially compared to earlier 20th century dates with lower mintages. This large number of coins in circulation is a key reason why ordinary 1993 pennies are generally common and not rare for collectors. Understanding the broader historical context helps explain why these pennies are interesting. By the early 1990s, the penny had become almost purely symbolic in Canada. Daily price levels meant that a 1 cent coin had very little purchasing power, yet it remained part of everyday transactions and coin sets. The penny would later be phased out. The Royal Canadian Mint stopped production in 2012, and pennies were removed from general circulation by 2013 due to costs exceeding face value and limited usefulness in commerce. For collectors, the 1993 penny is a common date. That means typical circulated examples are not rare and are mainly valued for completeness in a set rather than high individual value. In worn circulated condition, values generally remain close to face value or just slightly above, often just a few cents, depending on condition and local demand from collectors. Listings on collector sites show typical market values for circulated coins in ordinary grades in the $0.09 18 CAD range. Coins in uncirculated or mint state, MS, condition, where the surfaces are bright and unblemished, are more desirable for collectors. Even then, mid-grade uncirculated examples might sell for less than $1, with stronger examples graded MS64 or MS65 with more vivid original color often trading for a few dollars. Higher grade or certified coins in MS66 red, showing full red luster or better, can command premiums, sometimes around tens of dollars depending on market interest. There are also special collector sets from 1993 that include the penny along with other denominations struck in higher quality finishes, such as specimen or proof sets issued by the Royal Canadian Mint. These sets were sold directly to collectors with certificates of authenticity and different packaging. Coins from sets are typically more valuable than their circulation counterparts simply because they were preserved in superior condition and produced in limited quantities. One common type is the 1993 6-coin specimen set, which includes the penny in a premium finish alongside other denominations. Finally, error varieties or unusual production anomalies, such as off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, or die doubling, can be significantly more collectible and valuable than standard examples. Authentic errors are sought after by specialists and can sell for substantially more than typical pennies, especially if dramatic and well documented. While most 1993 pennies found in circulation are ordinary, watching for such anomalies is worthwhile for serious collectors. In summary, the 1993 Canada 1 cent is a classic example of late-era Canadian pennies. High mintage, traditional bronze composition, iconic designs, and modest collector value unless in exceptional condition or part of a certified set. For most collectors, it's an essential fill-in for a complete modern penny collection, but by itself, it's usually worth only modest amounts unless it has exceptional eye appeal or rarity due to condition or error status. Next up, the 1998 Canadian 1 cent coin was issued by the Royal Canadian Mint as part of Canada's long-running penny series, which had been produced every year from 1908 until the end of regular production in 2012. On the obverse front, it features a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with the Latin inscription Elizabeth Regina, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This portrait was standard for Canadian coinage of the era and continued the tradition of placing the reigning monarch's effigy on circulation coins. On the reverse back is the classic design of 2 maple leaves on a twig with the denomination and date, created by designer G. E. Kruger Gray, a symbol deeply associated with Canadian identity and used on pennies since the 1930s. In terms of composition and physical specifications, the 1998 penny differs significantly from earlier bronze pennies. Starting in 1997, the Royal Canadian Mint changed the penny's makeup from solid bronze, mostly copper, to copper-plated zinc, a much more cost-effective combination due to rising metal costs. The 1998 coin weighs about 2.25 g, has a diameter of 19.05, and a plain edge with a smooth, round shape. This change made the coin lighter and characterized its metallic appearance, although it still looked like the traditional penny to the casual observer. The mintage for the 1998 penny was 999,578,000 pieces, one of the highest totals in Canadian penny history. High mintage generally means that standard circulating examples are common and easy to find for collectors, especially in lower grades from everyday pocket circulation. Most of these coins entered circulation and remained in everyday use until pennies were phased out in 2012, when the cost of production exceeded face value and their usefulness in commerce had diminished. As a collector coin, the 1998 penny is considered a common date, but still holds interest as part of a complete set of modern Canadian coins or a series devoted to the Elizabeth II era. Because of the high mintage circulated examples, coins that show wear and have been used in daily transactions typically trade at prices just above face value, often in the range of a few cents up to around $0, $20, 50 CAD, depending on condition. In uncirculated or mint state, MS condition, meaning coins that show no signs of wear and retain original mint luster, values rise. According to grading guides, MS63 red-brown examples might be worth around 75 cents CAD, while higher-grade MS64 red or MS65 red coins can command approximately $7.25 CAD or more. Even MS66 red examples might fetch about $40 CAD in today's collector market, though prices vary by dealer, grading service, and demand. Collectors should also be aware of special varieties and rare pieces associated with the 1998 penny. Some coins were produced not for circulation. For example, pieces originally struck for uncirculated sets or with mint marks like a W under the Queen's bust, and these can be significantly rarer and more valuable than standard business strikes if confirmed authentic. These kinds of pieces are highly sought by collectors and may trade for premiums above typical uncirculated values, particularly if professionally graded. Additionally, there are non-circulating or special commemorative issues tied to 1998, such as a matte finish or 90th anniversary coin celebrating the Royal Canadian Mint, sometimes struck in silver or special finishes. These are not the standard circulation pennies, but are collector pieces with limited mintages and distinctly higher intrinsic and collector value because of their materials and limited numbers. Compared to earlier pennies like those from 1991 or 1993, the 1998 penny is notable for its change in composition to copper-plated zinc, its very large mintage, and its place in the later phase of the penny's history before the denomination's eventual discontinuation. While its basic design remained tradition-rich, the material changes reflect broader economic and minting trends of the late 20th century, and that makes this year particularly interesting to collectors tracking the evolution of Canada's coinage. And that is what makes the 1998 Canadian penny more than just a small coin. It represents a turning point in Canada's minting history as the nation moved toward more cost-efficient coin production. For collectors and history lovers alike, this humble cent remains a lasting reminder that even the smallest currency can carry a powerful story through time.